The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time is a game that almost doesn't need introduction. It introduced gameplay mechanics that are taken for granted now, and is one of the first open-world games to really get it right. Its general game design is still being imitated to this day, and many games which borrow heavily from Ocarina's formula are considered classics in their own right. Gamers who didn't grow up playing it are at least probably aware of the game by its reputation, and for a very good reason, as it is often regarded as the greatest video game of all time. Praise of such height will invariably draw dissent, and while there are compelling arguments out there, the game does a mighty job of defending its merits, even in 2018. Most of the game's perceived faults are related to the limitations of the Nintendo 64's hardware, such as blocky-looking character models, extremely limited camera control, and the lack of voice acting during dialogue scenes. Criticizing a game for the limitations of the hardware it was designed for is a bit like criticizing Citizen Kane for being monochrome, especially considering that both of these works managed to use their limitations as a source of power. The AI-controlled camera gets the job done in free-roaming areas, but it also means that the developers had a much better idea of where people might be looking as they move through areas. This helped them to design places with greater influence over the game's pacing, and coupled with the game's art style, conveys a feeling of a living storybook. Needing to stop and look around in first person to get a sense of things subtly nurtures a connection between players and their character that swinging the camera around them otherwise wouldn't, because as they pause to try to untangle a puzzle, so does he. Expressive, believable animations and detailed, interesting character designs win back any ground lost to a low polygon count, and the lack of voiced dialogue proves to be one of the game's greatest unspoken strengths. These limitations are not found in modern AAA games, but here, they are not only present, they are used without shame, tickling the imagination like a drawing on paper, and allowing the game to become more than the sum of its parts. But let it not be said that this game is deficient in parts by any means. For most players, this is a solid 30-plus hour game for the main quest, but those aiming to find secrets, unlock bonus items, or just soak it all in, could spend hundreds of quality hours immersed in its world. New tools discovered along the way will open up new areas moving forward, but also provide access to previously inaccessible parts of the environment already explored, resulting in a world that continues to feel fresh and engaging even after it's become familiar. Between running, jumping, climbing, shooting, grappling, horseback riding, or even using chickens as parachutes, there is no shortage of things to do in this game, and the introduction of context-sensitive buttons was a particularly insightful way to make the variety in gameplay possible and even comfortable on the N64's controller. And yet, for all the game's refinements and innovations in game design, the thing that holds Ocarina of Time together is one of its least imitated elements, but it's right there in the title. The Ocarina is an in-game item which serves as the bedrock for the entire quest. It is primarily used by the player to perform many different 6-note melodies that serve different purposes throughout the game. The player must actually learn to play the songs using the right buttons, and each song has distinct magical properties. Later on in the game, some of the melodies players learn figure into the game's fast travel mechanic, which allows teleportation to key areas of the world by playing the songs associated with each place, which serves as a great in-universe justification for the presence of the fast travel system in the first place. But the use of the ocarina is not limited to the songs that are required to learn. It's possible to change pitch and play at any desired length or speed. It is a fully functional, real, virtual instrument, and with a little time and care, it can be mastered. Here, for instance, is a rendition of Paint It Black. And here is the overture from Jesus Christ Superstar. While on rare occasions, playable instruments appear in other adventure games, the mechanic has not been replicated to the same depth as the ocarina, with this game's direct sequel, Majora's Mask, being the only exception, even within the series. And this mechanic, whether players experiment with the instrument or just essentially treat the required songs as codes and the ocarina as the input method, still ties all the various different threads of the experience around a single theme: music. Through playing the Ocarina of Time, the protagonist becomes not only the hero, but the bard, playing the songs of old, and through their power, changes the world little by little. No moment speaks to this theme better than in the game's final scenes, when an emotional score accompanies the game's many characters as they find bittersweet resolution upon the salvation of their kingdom, without the intrusion of so much as a sound effect. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time is a lot of things to a lot of people. It is a sweeping, heroic fantasy epic, a brain-teasing puzzler, and a thrilling cinematic adventure. It is a landmark of video game history, and to many, it is the crowning achievement of the medium. But underneath all of the things that Ocarina of Time is, the soul of the game is music. Its creation, a full-hearted gesture from one art form to another, in recognition of the special and intimate connections that games and music have with people. This special connection cannot be found in the hearing. It is not in the seeing, but in the doing. Like a song, a game is nothing without the inclusion of its most important element: a player. You.